What is the price of reassurance? Every human life possesses an inherent dignity that refuses to be reduced to an arithmetic. Everyone is behaving rationally, yet collectively, irrational outcomes emerge. Every incentive eventually becomes an ethic. Money should be healthcare's compass, never its destination. Every civilization eventually invents money, not because money is valuable, but because value is difficult to exchange. It just simply is. Money is a language. It is society's attempt to answer a deceptively simple question. How much is this worth? How much is his time worth or her time? That question works remarkably well for grain, for automobiles, for smartphones, for electricity. It becomes much harder when the thing being exchanged is human suffering. What is the price of reassurance? How much is it worth to tell a terrified father that his daughter does not have leukemia? What is the market value of a physician sitting quietly beside a dying patient after every treatment has already been exhausted? How much should compassion cost? The economist has an answer. The accountant has an answer. The insurer has an answer. The patient has another, each patient individually. The patient often has no idea what the physician is thinking, but the physician often has a different one still. The problem is not that these answers differ. The problem is pretending they are asking the same question. Medicine has always existed in an uncomfortable tension between two truths. First, resources are finite. Every MRI machine, every ICU bed, every physician's hour, every nurse's shift, every vial of medication, every dollar, they are all limited. No civilization has ever escaped scarcity, not yet. But there's another truth that sits beside it. Every human life possesses an inherent dignity that refuses to be reduced to an arithmetic. Those two truths create one of the oldest ethical tensions in civilization. How do we allocate finite resources without forgetting the infinite worth of the people who need them? That question has no perfect answer. Perhaps it never will. Yet our mistake has been believing that economics itself is the problem. It isn't. It's not the economics. Economics is simply the study of choices under scarcity. Medicine needs economics. Without it, hospitals would close, innovation would stop, clinics like KaufCare would disappear. The mistake occurs when economics ceases to be the servant and quietly becomes the master. The distinction seems subtle. It changes everything. The role of economics should be to support healing. I think we would all agree with that. The role of healing should never become supporting economics. Somewhere along the way, we began asking physicians to maximize productivity, revenue. We began asking hospitals to maximize margin. Everybody needs to make money. We got greedy. We began asking insurers to minimize utilization. None of those objectives are irrational. In fact, each makes perfect sense in isolation. But systems possess a peculiar property. When every participant optimizes a different objective, the system itself may optimize none of them. This is one of the greatest paradoxes of modern healthcare. Everyone is behaving rationally, yet collectively, irrational outcomes emerge. Patients delay care because they fear bankruptcy. Physicians leave practice, me for example, because they no longer recognize the profession they entered. Hospitals struggle despite charging extraordinary sums. Insurers battle rising costs despite restricting utilization. The system is broken, badly broken. Administrators work tirelessly while clinicians feel increasingly constrained. The problem may not be that any one stakeholder is failing. The problem may be that every stakeholder is succeeding at the wrong mission, the wrong game. Peter Drucker famously observed that what gets measured gets managed. Healthcare embraced this wisdom. Then, perhaps forgot to ask whether everything important could actually be measured. We count RVUs, we count length of stay, we count door to balloon times, readmissions, relative margins, cost per encounter. These measurements matter, but there are things no spreadsheet captures particularly well. Trust, presence, judgment, discernment, wisdom, courage, hope. How do you measure those things? The relief visible on a patient's face after hearing the scan is normal. I'm finally experiencing those things at KaufCare. The confidence that comes from knowing your physician actually remembers your name. The subtle reassurance that they care. That changes whether someone sleeps peacefully that night or not. These things resist quantification, and because they resist quantification, they slowly disappear from the systems increasingly designed around measurable outputs. Not because anyone intended this, because measurement itself exerts gravity. Organizations drift toward whatever they reward. This is true in medicine, it is true in education, it is true in law, it is true in business. Every incentive eventually becomes an ethic. That sentence deserves to be read twice. Every incentive eventually becomes an ethic. If physicians are rewarded primarily for volume, volume gradually becomes the virtue. If administrators are rewarded primarily for reducing cost, thrift becomes the virtue. If investors are rewarded primarily for quality returns, efficiency gradually becomes the virtue. None of these virtues are inherently wrong. They're just not patient care. They become dangerous when they displace medicine's oldest virtue, the unwavering commitment to place the patient's welfare first. Perhaps the question is not whether healthcare should make money. Of course it should. It needs to. No sustainable institution can exist without economic health of itself. Perhaps the better question is this: what should money be allowed to optimize in healthcare? Money is an extraordinary tool. It builds hospitals, funds research, develops new therapies, pays nurses, rewards innovation. But tools are dangerous things. A compass is invaluable for navigation. It is disastrous if mistaken for the destination. Money should be healthcare's compass, never its destination. And maybe that is where we begin to glimpse another possibility. Not a rejection of markets, not a rejection of innovation, not a rejection of investment, but a return to an older hierarchy, one in which economics once again serves medicine, and medicine once again serves humanity.